She hid her white wolf for 5 years, until they forced her to shift in front of the Alpha King. She moved quietly among the shadows, her silver eyes catching every glint of light, every hint of movement. No one in the village where she had taken refuge suspected her true nature. To them, she was simply a skilled healer, a woman who tended to wounds and fevers with a gentle hand and soft words. But Alara carried a secret more dangerous than any disease she healed. She was a white wolf, a rare shapeshifter whose kind had been hunted nearly to extinction by the Alpha King of the realm. She remembered the day she had fled her clan, the snow turning red with betrayal, and the cries of her family echoing behind her as she ran into the forest. Ever since, she had kept her wolf hidden, her human form a shield against a world that would kill her for what she was. The morning had begun like any other. Alara tended to the village children, mixing herbs into teas, whispering stories to keep their minds off the cold that seeped into their bones. Her hands moved deftly, but her ears twitched at every sound beyond the small wooden walls of her hut. Wolves of her own kind had a way of noticing things others missed. Even in human form, a whisper of danger could make her heart pound and her senses flare. That day, the whisper came in the form of distant hoofbeats, the clatter of armor, and voices that carried authority. Her heart tightened. Soldiers, from the royal court. Their presence meant trouble. Alara had always known that hiding was only temporary, that sooner or later someone would come looking for the rare white wolf who had disappeared years ago. She stepped outside, the morning mist curling around her ankles like ghostly fingers. A group of armored men rode into the village square, their banners dark and heavy with the sigil of the Alpha King, Kalen. Their leader, tall and broad, dismounted first. His presence alone commanded attention. His eyes, sharp and calculating, swept over the villagers as though measuring their worth. Every step he took seemed to press down on the earth itself, as if the world bent beneath him. Alara felt her stomach tighten. The Alpha King. The very man whose hunts had forced her into hiding. She had only ever seen him once, in memories that haunted her nights. A figure draped in shadow and power, a king who feared nothing and no one, not even the whispers of the forest. And now he was here looking for her, though he did not yet know it. The villagers bowed and whispered, but Alara stayed in the shadows, hoping to blend with the trees. She could not run now. The forest would not hide her from a king who had eyes like hawks and instincts honed by years of ruling a dangerous land. One of the soldiers, younger and nervous, stepped too close to the edge of the forest where Alara hid. A branch snapped beneath his boot. In an instant, something inside her snapped as well. The wolf stirred, wild and urgent, sensing the danger. Alara's hands shook, her chest rising and falling rapidly. She tried to pull back, tried to suppress the power that lived in her veins, but it was too late. Her body shimmered. Her bones shifted, elongating, muscles reshaping themselves. Fur, white as fresh snow, sprouted across her skin. Her hands became paws, her eyes glowed silver, and a low, guttural growl escaped her throat. Villagers screamed, scattering into their huts. The soldiers froze, unsure whether to strike or flee. Alara felt the fear and the exhilaration of her true form. She was powerful, untamed, and yet terrified. The forest seemed to lean in, watching her transformation, the air itself thick with tension. She had hidden for 5 years to avoid this very moment, and now fate had dragged her into the open. Then she saw him, Kalen. Standing at the edge of the village square, the light of the rising sun catching on his dark armor, his cloak billowing like a shadow in the mist. His silver eyes met hers, and for the first time in 5 years, Alara felt a fear she could not chase away. Not fear of death, not fear of capture, but a strange, burning recognition. "You," he said, his voice deep and steady, carrying over the chaos. "You hide among them like a ghost, yet you are here. Why?" Alara's wolf growled, a sound that echoed through the square, warning him to stay back. But Kalen did not move. His presence was not threatening in the same way as the soldiers, yet it demanded attention, respect, and obedience. He was the Alpha King, and even a hidden wolf could sense the authority in every line of his body, in every tilt of his head. I, her human voice broke through the wolf's snarl, trembling but defiant. She tried to step back into the trees, but Kalen's eyes held hers, pinning her in place. "Step into the light," he commanded, his voice like steel wrapped in warmth. "I will not harm you if you do not try to run." Her instincts screamed to flee. The wolf inside her wanted to disappear into the forest, to vanish as she had done for 5 long years. But something about his gaze, something in the way he did not raise his sword, made her pause. A strange and dangerous curiosity stirred within her, one she had never allowed herself to feel before: fascination. With slow, deliberate steps, she moved toward the clearing. Her wolf form glimmered in the morning light, and the villagers dared to peek from their windows. The soldiers held their ground, unsure what to do. The Alpha King waited, his eyes never leaving hers. "You are rare," he said quietly, almost to himself. "A white wolf and yet human. You carry both lives and both are dangerous." Alara's ears flattened and a low growl rumbled in her chest. She did not trust him, yet she could not deny the pull she felt toward his calm, unyielding presence. "I am no threat," she said, her voice a mixture of human words and wolf growls. "I hide. I do not hunt. I do not belong to your wars." Kalen studied her, his expression unreadable. "Hiding does not make you safe," he said finally, "and the world is not kind to what it does not understand. You should know that better than anyone." Her heart skipped. He did not accuse her. He did not reach for a weapon. He only observed, sharp and piercing, as if he could see every secret she had tried to bury in the 5 years of her solitude. The wind shifted, and the forest seemed to hold its breath. Alara's wolf instincts tensed. There was more to this man, more to this encounter than the soldiers or the village. She sensed it deep in her bones, a challenge, a test, and perhaps a destiny she could not yet understand. Kalen stepped closer, not threatening but deliberate, his presence heavy and magnetic. "You have hidden from me," he said. "Do you know what that means? That I have been searching for 5 years." Alara's growl softened, a mixture of defiance and awe. "I do not wish to be found," she said. "Not by you, not by anyone." He smiled faintly, a shadow of something warmer beneath the cold authority. "Some things cannot be hidden forever. Some truths demand to be seen, and I have a feeling you are one of them." The soldiers shifted nervously, sensing the tension, the unspoken understanding between the wolf and the king. The villagers whispered, peeking through shutters, terrified and fascinated all at once. And Alara felt it too, the stirrings of a power older than the kingdom, older than fear, that drew her toward him even as every instinct screamed to run. Kaelin's gaze never wavered. "You will come with me," he said. "You have no choice now. But perhaps, if you are brave, you will find that your life does not end here." Alara's silver eyes glimmered with fire, wolf and human mingled in a tense heartbeat. She had lived 5 years in hiding, yet in this moment, under the gaze of the Alpha King, she felt something she had never felt before: the spark of inevitability. Her claws dug into the soft earth, her muscles tensed, her breath a low growl and shallow human gasp. She could fight, she could flee, she could disappear into the trees and never be seen again. But a strange, dangerous part of her wanted to stay, to see what this man would do. To see if he could understand the wolf she had hidden, the woman she had become, and the power she carried beneath her skin. And so, with one last glance at the frightened villagers, Alara stepped fully into the light. Her white fur glimmered in the morning sun. Her silver eyes met Kaelin's, and the world seemed to hold its breath. "You will see what I am," she whispered, almost to herself, "and you will understand why I hid." Kaelin's lips curved slightly, a mixture of warning and fascination. "I already understand more than you think," he said. For the first time in 5 years, Alara did not run, and the Alpha King knew that nothing would ever be the same again. The forest whispered. The wind carried a warning. And somewhere in the shadows, eyes watched, waiting. The castle of Urindor rose like a dark sentinel over the kingdom, its spires cutting into the gray sky. Cold stone walls encased centuries of history, power, and whispered secrets. Elara followed the Alpha King, Kaelin, through the massive gates, her white wolf form now restrained, her human form restored by her own will. Each step echoed in the hallways, mixing with the soft shuffle of armored guards. Her heart raced, not with fear alone, but with a mixture of curiosity, defiance, and an emotion she had long denied: fascination. Kaelin led her through corridors lined with tapestries that told of past kings and battles. The scent of burning torches and old stone filled the air, and the walls themselves seemed to hum with authority. Elara kept her gaze lowered, though she could feel Kaelin's presence behind her, a constant weight and a constant pull. "You will stay in the East Wing," Kaelin said finally, stopping before a tall wooden door. "It is comfortable, secure, and isolated enough for you to adjust. You will not leave without my permission." Elara's lips pressed into a thin line. "And if I refuse?" she asked softly, her silver eyes flashing with a dangerous light. Kaelin turned to face her. His dark eyes were sharp, yet there was a flicker of something else, curiosity, maybe even amusement. "Refusal is a dangerous choice. But I do not force submission with fear alone. You will find loyalty easier than resistance if you are wise." She studied him for a long moment, weighing every word, every expression. His reputation had preceded him. A king who demanded obedience, whose strength was unmatched, whose enemies disappeared quietly in the night. Yet in this moment he was calm, almost gentle, and that contrast made her pulse quicken. The East Wing was quiet, a long corridor lined with small windows that let in pale morning light. Her room was simple: a soft bed, a table with herbs, and a window overlooking the castle gardens. She sank onto the bed, exhausted from the journey and the weight of her revelation. Her fingers traced the white fur still faintly lingering in her memory, the wolf within her restless even in human form. She had hidden for 5 years, and now she was here, in the heart of the Alpha King's court, exposed and vulnerable. The first days were tense. Soldiers and servants alike avoided her, whispering behind her back, their fear palpable. Elara moved carefully, helping when she could, tending wounds, brewing teas, observing the life of the castle from the shadows. But everywhere she went, Kaelin's eyes seemed to follow, silent and watching. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and painted the sky in hues of blood and gold, Kaelin approached her room. He did not knock. He did not hesitate. He simply stepped inside, his presence filling the small space with authority. "You cannot hide from me here," he said quietly, closing the door behind him. "Nor can you hide from yourself. I see both, the woman who walks among humans and the wolf you try to deny." Elara's pulse quickened, her hands trembling slightly. I am not ready," she said. Her voice was small yet firm. "I do not know if I can control it here. If I shift fully, I might hurt someone." Kaelin studied her, his gaze steady. "Control comes from understanding, not fear. You fear the power within you because you have not faced it fully. You fear yourself." A shiver ran down her spine. His words, though gentle, struck like an arrow. She had lived 5 years trying to forget, trying to bury her true nature, but the truth was always there, waiting. And Kaelin, this man of iron and shadow, could see it. "Why do you care?" she asked softly. "Why do you not simply kill me or send me away like the others?" Kaelin's eyes softened for a brief moment, just enough to show a flicker of humanity behind the mask of the Alpha King. "Because you are different, rare, powerful, and because, for reasons I do not yet understand, I am drawn to you." Elara's breath caught, drawn to her. The words were simple, yet they carried weight heavier than any sword or threat. She wanted to step back, to guard herself as she always had, but her body betrayed her. Her heart beat too fast, her skin felt warm, and the wolf within her stirred, restless and alert. The next days tested her resolve. Kaelin invited her to the training grounds, not to fight, but to observe. Soldiers sparred, practicing their techniques, and Alara watched with a keen eye, noticing strength, weakness, and the subtleties of combat that mirrored the instincts of a predator. Kaelin walked beside her, silent at first, then speaking in quiet tones that carried authority but also a strange warmth. "You see," he said one evening, "power is not just physical. It is control, perception, patience. You will need all of these if you are to survive here, if you are to survive me." Alara's silver eyes met his, a flicker of defiance in them. "And if I fail?" she asked. Kaelin's gaze did not waver. "Then you will learn one way or another, but I believe you will not fail. Not because I expect it, but because you have no choice but to succeed." The tension between them was palpable. Every glance, every brush of their fingers as he handed her tools or herbs, sent sparks of energy through her chest. She fought the desire to draw closer, to trust, yet something in her whispered that she could not remain distant forever. One night, the castle was silent except for the soft hoot of an owl and the rustle of leaves outside the window. Alara sat by the fire trying to calm her racing thoughts. The wolf stirred within her, restless, longing for the freedom of the forest. She closed her eyes, imagining snow under her paws, the wind rushing through her fur, the thrill of the hunt and the silence of the trees. Kaelin entered quietly, leaning against the doorway. "You think you are alone," he said softly, "but the castle has a way of showing you what you try to hide." Alara opened her eyes, startled. I cannot control it yet. Not fully. I do not know if I am ready." Kaelin stepped closer, his shadow falling over her. "You are more ready than you think, but you fear your power and you fear me." A low growl escaped her throat, soft but warning. "I do not fear you," she said, though her heart betrayed her words. Kaelin's eyes softened again, just enough to show the man behind the king. "Perhaps not, but you do not understand me either. I am not the monster you think. I am bound by duty, by a curse of blood and throne. And you are bound by your past, your grief, and the wolf you hide." Alara swallowed hard. She wanted to speak, to deny him, to retreat into the safety of silence, but her voice faltered. She did not know if she could lie anymore, not with him. You know about the curse," she whispered. Kaelin shook his head slowly. "I do not know all. Only pieces, fragments that I have learned through the years, but I feel it, the weight of it in me and perhaps in you." The fire flickered, casting shadows across his face, highlighting the sharp lines of his jaw and the intensity of his gaze. Alara felt a pull she had never experienced. Fear mixed with fascination, caution mixed with desire. The wolf inside her trembled, sensing a predator's strength and an unusual vulnerability in the same man. "You will need to trust me," Kaelin said quietly, almost a command, almost a plea. "Not blindly, but enough to see the truth. And the truth is, we are more connected than you realize." Alara's ears twitched and a shiver ran down her spine. She wanted to run. She wanted to hide. But a part of her, a dangerous, curious part, wanted to stay, to see what he would do. To see if he could see her fully as both human and wolf and not recoil. Days passed in a tense rhythm. Training sessions, walks in the gardens, quiet conversations by torchlight. Alara began to notice subtle things about Kaelin. The way his jaw tightened when he was concerned, the faint softness in his eyes when he thought she could not see, the rare smile that hinted at the man beneath the king. And in her heart, the wolf stirred, curious, alert, and slowly learning trust. One evening, as the sun set behind the mountains and painted the sky in shades of crimson, Kaelin took her to the balcony overlooking the forest. The wind teased her hair, carrying the scent of pine and distant snow. "You belong to both worlds," he said softly, his hand brushing against hers. "The human and the wolf, and one day you will have to choose or embrace both fully." Alara swallowed hard, her heart racing. I do not know if I can, she whispered. Kalen's gaze held hers unwavering. Perhaps you will not have a choice, but whatever comes, you will not face it alone. The wind howled through the castle towers, carrying the scent of danger and destiny. And in the shadows something stirred, a presence watching, waiting, aware of the white wolf who had revealed herself to the Alpha King. Elara shivered, not entirely from the cold. Her silver eyes reflected the moonlight, wild and human, defiant and uncertain. The path ahead was unclear, filled with danger, politics, and a growing tension she could not name. And yet, for the first time in 5 years, she felt a spark of possibility. She was no longer hiding. And Kalen knew that the story of the White Wolf had only just begun. The castle of Urindor never slept, though most of its inhabitants preferred the illusion of rest. Whispers of the White Wolf spread like wildfire through the halls, carried by servants and soldiers alike. Some spoke in fear, others in awe. Elara moved carefully, aware of every glance, every murmur, every measuring gaze. Though she had revealed herself to Kalen, she had not revealed herself to the world, or to her own full power. And the wolf within her stirred constantly, restless and impatient. Kalen had placed her under a strict regimen, not of punishment, but of observation and understanding. She could feel the weight of his attention in every corner of the castle, in every shared meal, every training session, and every walk through the gardens. He did not command her with harsh words. He did not force her to act, yet his presence was as binding as chains. She felt both protected and exposed in the same heartbeat. "You must learn control," he told her one morning as they walked along the edge of the castle battlements, the wind whipping her hair and the hem of her cloak. "Not just of your wolf, but of yourself. Fear and doubt will destroy you before any enemy does." Alara's silver eyes met his. "And if I fail?" she asked softly, though she already feared the answer. Kalen's lips curved slightly. "Then you will learn from the consequences, but I do not expect failure, I expect growth. And in growth there is power and trust." She shivered, not from the cold, but from the weight of his words. There was something in him that drew her, a magnetism she could not resist. And yet the wolf inside her hissed with warning. Power always attracted danger. The court had grown restless with the news of her arrival. Nobles whispered, plotting, their ambitions as sharp as their daggers. They saw her as a threat, an anomaly that could unsettle the Alpha King's rule. Elara felt their eyes on her constantly, testing her, challenging her silently. She could not shift openly in the castle. It would be seen as an attack, a violation of trust. And yet every night the wolf clawed at her from within, hungry for freedom and recognition. One evening, Kalen led her to the library, a vast chamber filled with towering shelves and the scent of old parchment. Candles flickered, casting long shadows across the walls, and the air was heavy with secrets. "Knowledge is power," he said, handing her a leather-bound book. "Not just about magic or combat, but about the world, the curses, the clans, and the prophecy. You cannot fight what you do not understand." Elara opened the book carefully, her fingers brushing the pages as if touching fragile history. Her eyes widened as she read of the ancient prophecy, whispered in secret by shamans and sorcerers. A white wolf would awaken in the time of the Alpha King's greatest trial, bridging human and wolf, shadow and light, and bringing either ruin or salvation. "You mean me?" she whispered, almost afraid to voice the truth. Kalen's gaze was steady, calm, and piercing all at once. "Perhaps. The signs are clear, but prophecy is not fate. It is a warning, a guide. You may choose your path, but the world will test you, Elara." Her pulse quickened. The prophecy meant more than danger. It meant responsibility, and responsibility had always been a burden she had tried to escape. She had hidden for 5 years, but hiding would no longer save her. And yet Kalen's presence gave her courage she had not known she possessed. Days later, she was summoned to the training grounds again. Soldiers sparred, their movements precise and deadly, and Kalen stood nearby, silent but watchful. Today was not just observation. Today was a test. A sorcerer of the court had requested her presence, claiming knowledge of her wolf abilities and their potential link to the prophecy. Ilara's silver eyes gleamed with caution. She had never faced anyone like this sorcerer, nor had she ever performed her wolf's power so openly in front of others. She felt the familiar rush of adrenaline, the pull of the wolf inside her ready to burst free. "You must demonstrate control," Kalen said softly, his hand brushing hers briefly as he guided her to the center of the courtyard. "Control, not dominance. Let the wolf speak, but do not let it rule." The sorcerer circled her, muttering spells that hummed in the air like distant thunder. Ilara felt the wolf stir, claws digging into her mind, instincts heightening. She could feel every heartbeat in the courtyard, every subtle shift in wind and shadow, every movement of the soldiers around her. Taking a deep breath, she focused. Her body shimmered faintly, fur appearing just at the tips of her arms and neck, a whisper of the wolf she hid. She allowed her senses to sharpen, perceiving the world in ways humans could not, yet keeping her human mind in control. The soldiers flinched at the sight, unsure if it was magic or threat. Kalen's eyes never left hers. There was no judgment in his gaze, only observation, curiosity, and something unspoken, a connection growing stronger with each moment. The demonstration ended with a soft glow, her power acknowledged but restrained. The sorcerer nodded, impressed, though his eyes carried a warning. Such power was rare, and rare power invited both reverence and danger. Afterwards, Kalen led her back to the gardens. The sky was painted in the deep colors of dusk, the wind carrying the scent of pine and earth. Ilara's hands trembled slightly from exertion and nerves. "You did well," Kalen said quietly, "better than I expected, and yet," he hesitated, studying her closely, "you fear your own strength. That is your greatest obstacle." Ilara looked down, biting her lip. "I do. I have hidden for so long, I do not know how to embrace it without losing myself." Kalen stepped closer, the warmth of his presence brushing against her. "You will not lose yourself. You will find yourself. And in doing so, you may find that the world, even I, can accept you fully. But it will not be easy." Her heart raced. There was something magnetic about him, something dangerous and irresistible. She wanted to step back, to guard herself as she had for 5 long years, yet every instinct of her wolf and every beat of her human heart urged her closer. Over the following days, the tension between them deepened. Kalen would visit her quietly, offering guidance, sometimes in words, sometimes in silence. They walked through the gardens, observing the forest beyond, the wolf within her stirring at the smells and sounds. She began to notice subtleties in him, the way his jaw tightened when he was concerned, the rare softness in his gaze, the strength he carried not just in muscle, but in presence. One night, under a full moon, Kalen took her to the balcony overlooking the forest. The silver light painted her hair and eyes, blending human and wolf, shadow and light. "You are more than you know," he said softly, his hand brushing against hers in a fleeting touch. "And you will be tested, not just by your enemies but by your own fears." Ilara's silver eyes met his. "I do not know if I am ready," she whispered. Kalen's gaze held hers unwavering. "Perhaps not, but the world will not wait for readiness. Only courage matters, courage and trust in yourself and in others." A shiver ran through her, not from the cold but from the intensity of his presence. Her wolf stirred, restless and alive, sensing the alpha's strength and the unusual vulnerability beneath. She wanted to retreat, to hide, to deny herself these feelings, yet she did not. For the first time in 5 years, she felt something dangerous and thrilling, hope. Then came the warning. From the edge of the forest, a shadow moved, silent and deliberate. Eyes watched the castle, alert to every movement, every flicker of magic. Ilara sensed it, the wolf inside her reacting before her human mind could name the danger. Someone, or something, was coming, drawn to her power. Kalen noticed her tension immediately, his hand tightening around hers. "What is it?" he asked quietly, his senses alert. "Alara, the wolf," she whispered, her instincts screaming. "Something is watching us. It knows I am here." Kalen's eyes narrowed. "Then we prepare. We do not wait for threats to come to us." The wind carried an eerie chill, and the castle seemed to hold its breath. Alara's heart pounded, human and wolf instincts merging. She was no longer the hidden healer in a remote village. She was the white wolf, rare and powerful, and the alpha king at her side. Together they would face whatever darkness approached, though neither yet knew its form or its intent. Alara took a deep breath, feeling the power and the fear, the uncertainty and the pull toward Kalen. She had come far, revealed herself, and begun to embrace her strength. But the world beyond the castle gates was wide, dangerous, and unyielding, and something was coming that would test both her and the Alpha King in ways neither could imagine. For the first time in her life, she felt truly alive. And the shadow waited. The moon hung high over the forest, silver and bright, casting its light across the castle of Urindor. The night was still, but the air carried tension, thick and heavy. Alara stood at the edge of the balcony, her silver eyes reflecting the moonlight, her heart pounding in rhythm with the wolf within her. For the first time, she felt the power she had hidden for 5 years, pulsing in her veins, alive and hungry. Beside her, Kalen stood tall, the Alpha King in every sense, strong, calm, and commanding. His presence anchored her, yet also pulled at her in ways that stirred emotions she could neither name nor control. He did not speak, only observed, aware of the storm both outside the castle and within her. The shadow in the forest moved with deliberate grace, aware of her power and drawn to it like a moth to flame. Alara sensed it before she saw it, a dark predator, unknown, ancient, and dangerous. Her claws itched to shift, to defend, to embrace the wolf that had been waiting for this moment. Kalen's hand brushed hers lightly. "Are you ready?" he asked, his voice calm but edged with steel. Alara swallowed hard, feeling the wolf stir with anticipation and instinct. "I think so," she said. Her voice was soft, yet carried the weight of courage she had been gathering for years. "Then we face it together," Kalen said. "You and I, no hiding, no running." The forest seemed to hold its breath as they moved toward the edge, the shadow watching them, calculating, waiting for the right moment. Alara's senses were sharp, every rustle of leaves, every shift of wind, every heartbeat around her amplified. She felt alive, powerful, and strangely calm despite the danger. Then it struck. From the darkness of the forest, the shadow lunged, a large, sleek form, faster than any human or wolf she had ever known. The castle guards shouted, but Kalen was already ahead, drawing his sword, every motion precise and deadly. Alara did not hesitate. The wolf within her roared to life, her body shifting fully, fur pure and white, eyes silver and glowing. She moved with strength and grace, her claws slicing the air, her instincts guiding her every step. The predator froze for a heartbeat, assessing, and then attacked again. The battle was swift and fierce. Kalen and Alara moved together, a silent understanding forming between them. One defended while the other struck, one distracted while the other attacked. The predator was strong, cunning, but it had underestimated the bond between the Alpha King and the White Wolf. Every strike from Kalen, every movement from Alara was coordinated, instinctive, and precise. In the midst of the chaos, Alara felt a strange surge of emotion. She realized that her fear had transformed into something powerful, trust in Kalen, trust in herself, and a sense of purpose she had never known. The wolf and the woman were united, and together they were unstoppable. Finally, with a combined effort, the shadow faltered. Kalen's sword and Alara's claws struck in perfect unison, and the creature fell back into the darkness, wounded but alive. It retreated into the forest, leaving the castle and its defenders shaken but unharmed. Alara shifted back into human form, panting, heart racing, and exhilarated. Kalen approached her, his eyes filled with a mixture of pride and something softer, something she had only begun to understand. "You did it," he said quietly. "You embraced yourself fully. And together we were unstoppable." Alara's silver eyes met his, and for the first time she did not feel fear or uncertainty. I never thought I could," she admitted. "Not alone, but with you." Her voice faltered, her cheeks warming. Kalen reached for her, his hand gentle but firm. "You are never alone, Alara. Not anymore. And you will never have to hide again." The tension that had bound them over the past weeks, the uncertainty, the fear, the curiosity, the longing, seemed to dissolve in that moment. Their eyes locked, and the world around them faded into the night, the forest, and the silver glow of the moon. Over the following days, the castle settled into an uneasy peace. Nobles whispered, soldiers observed, but none dared challenge the bond between the Alpha King and the White Wolf. Alara moved with confidence, her wolf instincts guiding her but never controlling her. She healed, observed, and even trained with the soldiers, earning their respect not through fear but through strength and intelligence. Kalen remained at her side, sometimes silent, sometimes guiding, sometimes teasing with words that made her heart race. Their connection deepened, subtle gestures and fleeting touches weaving trust, understanding, and unspoken affection between them. One afternoon, Kalen led her to the gardens. The sunlight danced across the leaves, birds sang, and the scent of flowers filled the air. He stopped before a fountain, water sparkling in the light, and turned to face her. "Alara," he said, his voice softer than she had ever heard, "these past weeks have shown me more than I expected. Not just your power, but your courage, your heart, your mind. You are extraordinary." Alara felt a warmth rise in her chest, a mixture of pride and vulnerability. "I only survived because of you," she admitted. "Because you believed in me, even when I could not believe in myself." Kalen stepped closer, his hand brushing hers again. "No," he said gently. "You believed in yourself. I only reminded you of what you already were. Strong, brave, rare, and worthy of more than hiding in the shadows." For a moment they simply stood there, the world around them fading, the tension of weeks condensing into a single heartbeat. Alara felt the wolf stir, a low purr of satisfaction and anticipation, as if approving of the bond she was forging with the king. Then Kalen did something that surprised her. He knelt, taking her hand in both of his, eyes never leaving hers. "I know the world will not understand us easily," he said, "but I do, and I will protect you as long as you allow me. Not just as a king, but as someone who cares for you deeply." Alara's silver eyes glistened. For the first time she allowed herself to feel fully, not just the wolf's power, not just the fear of the world, but the stirrings of trust, affection, and something tender she had denied for too long. I trust you," she whispered, "and I care for you too." Kalen's lips curved into a small, rare smile. "Then we are no longer alone. Not you, not me, not the wolf, not the king. Together, we are more than the sum of our fears." The forest beyond the castle seemed to sigh, the wind carrying a sense of calm after weeks of tension. But even as peace settled, the prophecy lingered in their minds, a reminder that danger could return, that power could awaken in ways unforeseen. Yet in that moment, they were united, human and wolf, king and rare creature, bound by trust, courage, and a deepening connection that neither could deny. The nights grew quieter, though Alara still patrolled the castle walls in wolf form occasionally, ensuring no threat approached. Kalen remained ever vigilant, yet he allowed her independence, understanding that her strength was hers to command. And in the quiet moments when the moon bathed the forest in silver light, they would stand together, sometimes in silence, sometimes speaking softly, and always connected. Weeks passed, and the castle began to recognize her presence not as a threat, but as a symbol of strength. Soldiers learned to respect her skills, villagers whispered of her courage, and even the nobles began to see that she was more than a mystery. She was a force that could not be ignored. And through it all, Kaelin remained at her side, teaching her, guiding her, but also learning from her, understanding her, and slowly revealing the man behind the king. Their bond deepened, subtle and powerful, a connection that transcended words and reached into the core of their beings. One night, under a sky lit with stars, Alara sat by the castle's edge, the wind tugging at her hair. Kaelin joined her silently, and for a long while they simply watched the forest, listening to the sounds of the night. "You have changed me," Kaelin said quietly. "Not just because of your power, but because of your courage, your heart, your unwavering spirit. You remind me that even a king can be human, even a ruler can feel deeply." Alara turned to him, her silver eyes reflecting the starlight. "And you have changed me too," she said. "You have shown me that I do not have to hide, that I can be both wolf and human, strong and vulnerable, brave and cared for." Kaelin's hand found hers again, a gentle touch that spoke volumes. "Then we face whatever comes together." The wolf inside her purred softly, a content, satisfied sound that mingled with the wind. She had survived, revealed herself, embraced her power, and found trust and affection in the most unexpected place. The prophecy was no longer a shadow over her life. It was a guide, a path she could choose with Kaelin by her side. The forest beyond the castle remained still, yet Alara knew it was watching, waiting, always alive. And she no longer feared it. She was the white wolf, strong, brave, and unafraid. She was human, tender, and capable of love. And beside her stood the Alpha King, powerful, devoted, and changed by her presence. Together they would face whatever the world held. Together they were unstoppable. And as the moon bathed them in silver light, Alara realized she had finally found the place she had been searching for all along. Not in hiding, not in fear, but in courage, trust, and love.